listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Seven, 9, 8.
798.
Wait, that's how I cut my pizza, guys. Welcome back, Leatherhead Nation, to the Gettin Salty Experience. It's the only podcast in Oh, who is that? Holy
What
up?
Bobs. Mick Bob is back in the town.
Bob,
Look at him. Oh, he's got the guns out. This is when you know it's going in the toilet. He doesn't wear the suit anymore.
Do a little Hogan, bro.
How about
Let me tell you
now?
something, brother. Welcome back. Gettin Salty Experience. It's craziness. We're fresh off the indie trip. Selling lots of pizza cutters. Coming soon. Welcome back to the show, guys. Nice to see your face, McBob.
It is very nice.
It is very nice. Thank you.
I was going to give
fuck it, I'm coming on. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to give him the Gonzo, you know, once you get a tan, but we already used that a couple of times. So
I was born with it.
He was. Yep.
Natural.
So what's going on, Ruff? How's it going on up there?
So I got to show you this. Just
what's that?
These are the guys from. Let me see if I could get it on there, so you can buff out a little bit.
Wow,
look at that. Nice leather there, right there.
That
is from King Kong Leather Company, established 2015, made in America, and give them a look. See, they sent this to Kubi Kubes. So
you got one too, though. Yeah, I hope I can't take the only one. You got
no, this is yours. I had gotten the one from the last leather guy.
Oh, but this is a new leather guy.
New leather guy.
King Kong. Maybe he wants to advertise on the show, King Kong. You know
maybe. Don't
he wants to grow that business, like our man Vince from Armatech, bro. He's business is coming out of his pockets for crying out loud. It's falling all over the place.
Falling all over the place.
Is that another floor over there? Yeah. What else? How about you, Mike? What'd you do today? A little back and bars?
Rangers lost, Mikey.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well,
Rangers.
Whereas they failed, the Knicks have excelled. Though at least I still have the Knicks, so I'm not.
How are they doing? What's their record?
One piece. 1-1.
Should be 2-0, man.
It should be. Game 3 is Saturday in Miami, and then games 3 and 4 will be in Miami. So hopefully they can
they really spread out the games, huh?
Yeah, because they can't interfere with the hockey playoffs. That's the thing. They have to schedule it that way so that it doesn't line up.
Hockey. What is that? Hockey.
Exactly.
Nobody cares about hockey, Boomer.
Nobody cares about hockey, Boomer. No.
So, let's see. Hopefully the Knicks can come back. If they come back to the Garden for Game 5 next Wednesday, tied 2-2, I'll take it. If they come back up 3-1, that'd even better.
Right.
But at least I still have them.
Speaking about balls, Roof, if you want to talk about balls, I got the old. Thank God he didn't use this today on the balls, bro, because I would have been in a lot of pain. So I'm sitting on a bag of ice right now because I had the boys cut it, cap it. Done. Don't want no more kids. Finished.
I had the appointment to do that.
This late?
And something happened, and I had to cancel, and I never went back. So
then you were just free balling for the rest of your life.
Swinging it.
Just winging it.
Just winging it on a wing and a prayer. Yeah.
Does it feel tight?
I'm waddling around. They give you this kind of jock strap to keep the boys up. You know what I mean? To keep them up in place.
Don't they give you anesthesia for that?
Oh, dude. The guy was like, all right, you've had this before. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm going to just start it really slow. I got all warmy tingle. And he's like, you got.
Oh, you went out.
Done.
Oh, it's
woke
the
up.
20 minutes sleep you ever had.
There was oh my God. There was some Indian lady. Kevin, are you? Kevin,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? Have to wake up. She had some crackers in her hand. I was like, oh man, that was the best sleep ever, bro. That was awesome.
And then you had ice cubes on your sack.
And I just got some ice cubes in and out. You know what I mean?
All right, let's get the chief in here. He's ready to go. This is
we got to do some commercials first, Mike. You know what we got to do? Don't jump the fucking gun.
Well, I know this guy. This guy's really good. Let's hear him.
If you're looking for a gift for that special firefighter in your life, then head on over to gettinsaltyapparel.com. Yes, gettinsaltyapparel.com. What do we have? Well, we carry hand-drawn original t-shirts, glassware such as mugs, shot glasses, pint glasses, engraved Arctic cooler cups, and much, much more. There's also a full line of firefighter tool bottle openers like Halligan's, nozzles, and wine bottle opener accesses too. And if you're a cigar smoker, congratulations! We have Partner Saw cigar cutters and humidors. Think we're done? Far from it. We got toiletry, gear bags, koozies, a full line of hats, decals, sweatshirts, and once again, so much more. We can also personalize most of these products, and if you want discounts, hey, you've come to the right place. We got discounts on large orders for promotion dinners, weddings, as well as installation dinners. Just head on over to gettinsaltyapparel.com.
Told you
Right.
it was good.
It was good. Tell them about the super chat really quick, Mikey.
Yes, for those of you that may be tuning in, if you would like to be so kind, and if you have a question that you urgently need answered, well, the super chat's the way to go. You can choose an amount of your liking, of course. It doesn't have to be 100, although we would take it. It can be any amount. Put it in there, and at the proper time, we'll highlight the question. Just make sure it's relevant to the current conversation. And for whatever reason, if you couldn't catch the show live and you're catching it later, super thanks is also the way to go. Basically, a nod and a wink that we did a good job. Think we did a bad job? Far from it.
Nice. Think I can have any more kids? Far from it. Nope. Don't forget to donate. Ice is expensive, bro. I'm on a fixed income, going through the bags of ice.
Well, and we'll play In the Arms of an Angel by Sarah McLachlan, like you used to see in those commercials.
Yes. Yes. All right, now we can bring him in. He's probably left the room back there, Ruffy, but
All right.
do the honors, please.
We're going to do a little back in the day,
Historian in
1958.
general. Yep.
1958 Wooster Street fire with Chief J. Jonas.
Hold on a minute. Yeah. Stand by. It's coming.
She said.
What? What's going on?
Yeah, Mikey, good for you, bro. Good
Hold on a minute.
You. That was a good one. Hey,
There it is.
like this. Mike, that was a good one. What's up, Chief? How are you?
Chief,
I learned from the best.
Boys,
Nothing you haven't heard at the kitchen table before, right, Chief? I mean, this is all par for the course. Talking about ice and nut sacks and everything that goes on at the kitchen table.
He already, the Chief was saying, he already went for the fences with that one.
He's no stranger to it. All right, Mikey, quick, let's get the Patriotic, do a good deed.
I got you. Here we go.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Nice. One more thing before I forget. You know for sure that my wife is married to a fireman because I wake up from my nap and there's a gift bag and there's a note on it that says, "Sorry to hear about your nuts," and it's full. It's got chocolate covered almonds in it. It's got cashews in it. Good lady.
Great.
Chief, here we go. Let's go back. Let's turn back the hands of time. We're going back to 58. Before we get started, how are you, by the way? Before we jump right into it.
for me,
Yeah.
Peachy.
doing fine.
He's living a dream. What do you mean? He's retired
He's
finally.
retired dream. Coming on Two Idiots Show.
It's on a fixed income.
Paycheck to paycheck. All right, Chief. February 14th, 1958. Take it away, sir.
Yes, Valentine's Day.
Oh.
Valentine's Day, 1958. New York City was in the throes of a severe snowstorm, extreme cold and high winds, which would obviously play a role in this terrific fire. And it happened in house 100 acres. With all the loft buildings, and unlike today, the loft buildings in 1958, they were all commercial factories. They were places of employment for people. They weren't swizzle stick liberals running around.
Already.
You mean they weren't art galleries back then?
No, they were not.
There were actually people working manufacturing stuff, actually doing something.
Actually, factories.
You mean people actually work?
What?
And that's where this fire took place. And it's one of those name fires that'll forever be known as the Wooster Street collapse. And there's the front of the building. This is terrific architecture.
Beautiful.
It was a pleasure working down there, just driving around and looking at some of these buildings. And this was a gorgeous building. You notice the big arches in the front of the building, and it was built in 1890. It was 6 stories in height. It was 80 foot by 100 foot, brick and wood joist, and floors 1 through 5 were supported by cast iron columns and wood joists. The 6th floor, the top floor, the supporting members were wood timber, so there were no cast iron columns supporting the roof.
What was the reason for that, Chief? Why would they stop at the 5th and not go all the way up to the 6th?
Money.
Always is, isn't it?
Always is. The wood is cheaper than the cast iron columns.
And for people who are not from New York, Wooster Street, where would that be geographically for those people?
That is in Lower Manhattan. One of the major crosstown arteries is Houston Street. This Wooster Street comes off of Houston Street, and it's between Houston and Prince Street.
Gotcha.
You go to Manhattan, this is a place to go. There's all kinds of restaurants and shopping. Guys, if you send your wives there, take their credit cards away because it's very expensive, and but it's a terrific place to town. That's Soho. Soho.
That's what we call today Soho, right? South of Houston.
Right. So the occupancy contained, so the factory was the entire building. It contained heavy machinery and large bales of paper and 800-pound rolls of twine.
Wow.
So that's, this is some heavy stuff that was being done there. Exposure 2 was a similar 6-story brick and wood joist building. Exposure 4 was an 8-story loft building that had windows on the side walls facing the fire building. And that would come into play as events transpire.
Oh, was an alley there, Chief?
No alley, no. The buildings abutted.
Really?
And what were they manufacturing there?
Paper and twine.
They were making the paper and twine.
Yeah,
They were using that for something else.
That's the name of the company, Elkins Paper and Twine.
So the buildings touched, and there was windows in between.
The windows on Exposure 4, because that was 2 stories taller than the fire building.
Ah, right. I got you.
So you had two
stories of windows. I got you.
Windows.
I didn't understand.
Which you'll see in a little bit.
Yeah, I could see how that could go bad. Yeah.
Well, actually, it went good.
Oh, all right. That's good.
Yeah. All right. On February 14th at 1800 hours, the temperature was 20 degrees and the wind was howling at 20 miles per hour. Temperatures eventually during the night would drop to 4 degrees Fahrenheit. It was Elkins Paper and Twine. It was located at 137-139 Wooster Street between West Houston and Prince Street. Engine 13 and ladder 20 was stationed at 155 Mercer Street. And at the change of tours, Fireman Don Blaskovich of Engine 13 was detailed to theater inspection, which was interesting. That was a Friday night, right? And but like when I was in the 2nd Battalion, there was a lot of off-Broadway theaters in that area. We had like 20 theaters in Battalion 2's response area that we had to inspect once a month. So.
But back then they would detail a guy out, right, just to do those inspections.
Yep.
So would they would ride short then?
Either ride short or pull in a detail from somebody. Yeah.
Right. And is that firehouse still there, Chief?
That building is still there. It's no longer a firehouse. That was the old Fireman's Hall. I don't know if you could see.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
The windows between the 2nd and 3rd floor, you could see the outline. You could see where it says Fireman's Hall.
Yeah. We looked at that, Coobs, when we went there. You remember?
I think so. I remember that. Yeah.
Which is, I was so used to seeing 20 truck on Lafayette Street, where the old medical office was.
Right.
Oh, right. That's where they went, Lafayette. And where did 13 engine go? Yeah,
but that was an active firehouse up until the 70s. So Fireman Don Blaskovich of Engine 13 was detailed to theater inspection, and detailed into Ladder 20 from Ladder 1 was Fireman William Schmidt. He would be partnered with Fireman 2nd Grade Bernard Blumenthal, and Captain Thomas McGrath was in command of Ladder. All right.
Yep.
So it was Friday night, shortly after 1800, Valentine's Day. The workday was over. People are, getting ready to leave, getting their Valentines together for their loved ones. And the day was over at Elkins Paper and Twine. There were 7 employees still left in the building. Most of them were on the ground floor, but 2 were on the top floor. And at 18:20, the sound of breaking glass could be heard. Upon investigation, the employees saw that the reflection of flames across the street in the windows in the building across the street, indicating that their building was on fire.
That's never really any good.
No.
If you could see fire in the building across the street that you're in,
Reflecting, yeah.
that's no good.
The fire
Sounds lovely.
started on the 1st floor and went up a shaft, exposing the upper floors to fire. Fire was spreading rapidly. So you think of what they were doing there. This was a paper and twine place, so all very flammable stuff.
Right.
They had it in bulk. I'm sure they had it in smaller pieces too. And
Even the garbage that they were probably making, right? That was probably stored somewhere, right?
yeah,
All the paper waste and everything. I don't know how that worked out, but
that's
crazy.
So the building employees telephoned the fire department. Somebody outside went to alarm box 334 and at the corner of Worcester and Prince Street, and they snapped the fire alarm box. Manhattan Communications received the alarm at 18:23 hours. So right after the change of night tours, here we go. And it was a howling cold night. Manhattan Fire Alarm Dispatchers tapped out 334, which sent engines 13, 30, 33, 55, ladders 20, 9, Rescue 1, Division 1, Battalion 5, and Battalion 2. Also responding on the box, going to be a key part of the story, was Fire Patrol 2 from their quarters on 84 West 3rd Street.
Now, why would they dispatch Fire Patrol already on just a report of a fire, Chief? Multiple sources, or was that commonplace back then?
They could go on. They could even go on class 3s. They could be special call. They could go on class 3s, or they can go on report of a structural fire. I think back then, we'll get to it later, but I think that there was 4 fire patrols in service at 1958. 2 in Lower Manhattan, 1 on 30th Street, 1 on 3rd Street, and 2 in downtown Brooklyn. So I think that they played a more active role in 1958 than they did,
right.
5, So Fire Patrol arrived first. They got there quickly.
Oh, shit.
Followed by Engine 13 and Ladder 20. Fire Patrol 2 was commanded by Captain John J. Mullen. They quickly brought tarpaulins to the 3rd floor. All right. And for those listeners that don't know, Fire Patrol, we'll get into it more in depth later. They were essentially a salvage unit. They were employed to save the building from the secondary effects of fire. Ladder 20 raised their aerial ladder to the roof of the fire building, and the entire company went to the roof to perform vertical ventilation to facilitate the advance of the hose lines. And I saw that, I was taken back.
The whole company, yeah, that seems a little.
But you keep in mind, 1958, this is before Ladders 3.
Right.
So individual companies had maybe individual companies or whole battalions or whole divisions. Maybe the first two company for that type of building, the whole first two company may have gone to the roof, and the
right
new company may have done.
I like how you put that little in parentheses there. Fire occurred before Ladders 3 was written.
Yeah,
because you're like, what the heck are you all going up there for, right? But
so basically, SOP was whatever you guys did in that area or that battalion or that division, right?
Right. And like when Ladders 3 was written, there were companies who were got their nose out of joint. This is how come we're not doing what we're doing, and how come we have to adopt to what they're saying rather than
right.
So that was a point of attention when Ladders 3 came in.
Now you wouldn't even doubt it ever.
Right. It stood the test of time. Also, keep in mind, again, we're thinking of the whole situation as it would be today, but there were no saws and no portable radios. So at the time, this is a great picture. This shows kind of what it looked like before the collapse and how not only a lot of fire, but it's a lot of smoke just went in the whole area.
Yeah, a lot of hose stretched there too.
Yeah.
Chief, before you continue, I don't mean to interrupt. Back then, before the portable radios came into play, how would fire communications take place amongst the men?
They'd be yelling.
Oh, okay, makes sense.
Yelling, hand signals, like hand signal to start water was raising your hand. Stop water was the flashlight going across your chest. That was stop water.
Wow.
Interesting.
But yeah, it was yelling. Go to the window, tell the chief. It's not doing too good up here.
Hey, so looking so good up here.
Wrap it up.
At 18:27 hours, 4 minutes after the dispatcher received the alarm, Captain Thomas McGrath of Ladder 20 was climbing the aerial ladder, and he called down from the aerial ladder to have the second alarm. Fire had control of the upper floors, and there was a heavy smoke condition in the building. Firemen started venting the skylights and cutting the roof with their axes. I wonder how many guys could effectively cut a hole with an axe right now. It's there's a technique to it, and that was a sense of pride, that you could cut a hole quickly with an axe. Matter of fact, Ladder 56, their nickname is Rapid Axes.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was a play on the words of when they had
rapid water
engines. So this is all
rapid.
Rapid Axes.
Wolfie, there's the shirt. Rapid Axes.
Just picturing it.
Like they had us do it this in Patrolman school. They had railroad ties set up on the grass, go over by the parking lot, and we used to have to cut a line on these railroad ties. And you weren't cutting through the railroad ties. All you're doing is cutting a line. And that was the point. You're not trying to send the axe head to China. You're trying to cut a line.
That's it.
What year was it where the saws came in? Basically, every company had the 70s.
Yeah, and we were talking about him before. Bob Farrell was one of the guys that was promoting that.
That name keeps popping up. I don't know. It's like
yeah, and so Engine 13 hooked up to a hydrant, prepared to stretch to an 1/2-inch hose line to the upper floors. Again, 1.75 inch, 1.5 inch. Not a big thing yet in the fire department. Fire Patrol 1 arrived at the fire to back up Fire Patrol 2. This was a major commercial occupancy, and that's what the fire patrols were being used for at the time, was to protect commercial occupancies from the secondary effects of fire. They responded from their firehouse at 240 West 30th Street. They were led by Sergeant Michael McGee. They went to the 5th floor with their tarpaulins to perform their salvage work.
Chief, not to cut you off, but
yeah.
was that a common thing back then for them to already be like the fires? We don't have a line in operation yet. Like, what are they doing? Like, was that a common thing to do, or were they just?
The department radio says we're right around the corner.
I'm available. Well, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah, I mean, they run into the building.
Like the job is we got to go to this.
I understand. I got it. I just wanted to see what, like, they're already in the building. We don't even have a line in operation yet.
Yeah. The 2 Manhattan Fire Patrols working.
I get it. Listen, I get it. I'm just.
We got 3-2 in the fire patrol going to work.
Times two.
Times two. Yeah.
Dude, we had a lot of guys on, some heavy hitters who were in the fire patrol before they were on the job.
Well, we're going to talk about that later too.
Oh, there we go. I'm jumping the gun.
There you go. Deputy Chief Frank Mittich from the 1st Division arrived at the fire. He special called ladder 1 at 18:34 hours, and the second alarm was transferred at 18:35 hours. At 18:35 hours, 12 minutes after the box was transmitted, a loud sound could be heard. So this was really early into the fire.
Wow.
This was an indicator that the building was starting to collapse. There was no prior warning, and members of Ladder 20 were venting and operating on the roof.
That quickly, huh? That's not that long.
That's 10 minutes, 12 minutes.
Yeah. Although by the time they discovered the fire,
Could have been up there for.
it was. I think that there was 2 floors. Initially when they called the run in, there was 2 floors of fire.
It couldn't have been that far before because people were still in there just leaving for the day. It wasn't like it was 1 o'clock in the morning, right? It was.
Now the information I got was that there were 7 people in the building. 2 were on the upper floor, so they never accounted for those. How did those people get out, and how did they not know that the fire was
Right on the second, right, the 2 top floors, right?
So that's a question I have. I got that from old newspapers and stuff, so I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate. So and there's the rubble.
Holy mackerel.
Thomas McGrath of Ladder 20. This is the captain that went to the roof. Dove towards exposure 4 and grabbed the windows of exposure 4, which was 2 stories tall of the fire building. The captain grabbed the ledge, and he was held onto the ledge and pulled into the window by another fireman.
Who was in the exposure?
The other firemen were in exposure 4. That they saw him grab. He dove for the window. He probably hooked his arm to the window ledge, and they pulled him in. And saved his life. And fireman Blumenthal and Schmidt. Schmidt was the detail from Ladder 1. Could not make it to exposure 4 through the heavy smoke. When the roof began to collapse, it swallowed Blumenthal and Schmidt. Just sucked them right up. Fireman Patrolman Joseph D. Devine from Fire Patrol 2 was on the 3rd floor deploying tarpaulins when the rumbling sound started. It became louder and louder. He made it to one of his sidewalls as the floor started collapsing. He and another fireman made it to a void and crawled 10 feet, reaching a stairway. Now, that's interesting that he would say that. He was on the 3rd floor and the collapse noise kept getting louder as it got closer to him. And we experienced the same thing at the World Trade Center. That the collapse started.
Got louder as it got.
1,000 feet away, and it kept getting louder and louder.
Right. That's what it reminded me of when you just said that.
and he experienced that to a much smaller extent, but made it to the point where he differentiated it between when it started till it got to him. Members of Fire Patrol 1 were operating on the 5th floor when they heard the rumbling sound as well. Sergeant Michael McGee, Fireman Patrolman Louis Brusati, James Devine, and Michael Tracy had nowhere to go. The roof and the floors were collapsing. Screams from the trapped men could be heard by people in the street through the sound of the collapsing building.
Wow.
I was a battalion chief for 6 years, and I was a deputy for 15. And I am fortunate to say that I didn't lose anybody. But if I heard screams of guys in the street when we were working, it would haunt me.
I was just going to say that, Chief. That's something you would never forget. That would probably repeat in your head over and over.
Yeah. At 18:36 hours, the deputy, I'm sure I'm butchering this guy's name, Mitich from the 1st Division ordered the 3rd alarm transmitted. This was followed quickly by a 4th alarm at 1850 and the 5th alarm at 1852. Now, you really, when we were with the bell system, you really didn't go over a 5th alarm. You made it to a 5th alarm and you got what you got. You didn't need a special call much over the 5th alarm. The interesting part of this picture, if you look, there's a little window of smoke there right in the middle of the.
Yeah, you can see guys on the top and guys on the bottom.
That's you put their pictures into perspective and how massive this.
All right, look at how far up those two guys are above.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they said the rubble pile was 3 stories tall, and I'm pretty sure, like World Trade Center was, rubble pile was 6 stories tall with a couple sub basements, sub-cellars, So it just goes to show you that the difference in the construction material and how high it got piled.
Yeah. Was there a basement in this building, Chief?
I don't know. I would assume so.
Yeah, I would assume so.
All those buildings really had cellars and sub-cellars.
Mm-hmm.
I had when I was a lieutenant in 11 truck, the captain of 28 engine, Vinny Romeo, read an article and he told me about it. He said one of the most horrifying things you could see when you were a fireman in Hell's 100 Acres during its heyday was to turn the corner and see the sidewalk cellar gates of a building open and heavy smoke boiling out, and the tip of a portable ladder going down to this. Like, oh my God, here we go. That was like the worst image you could see. After the collapse, as with any collapse, the front wall was severely unstable. Everything that was knitted together with that building is now no longer doing it. So it's kind of staying together out of habit. The roof water tank was supported by steel beams that extended from the rear wall to one of the side bearing walls. The roof tank hung precariously over the collapsed rubble, and the retaining walls were unstable. Here we see a roof water tank with a big ice formation on it. And when you go out on building inspection, that's one of the things that you have to look for is a leaky water tank, because it may not be too bad in October if you have a leaky water tank, but come February, there's going to be a large ice formation forming on that water tank, which is going to provide an eccentric load, and it could pull that roof tank over and collapse it into the top floor. The smoke condition was made worse by the sodden rolls of paper and twine. This just soaks up the water, these large rolls of paper in particular. Fire was breaking out of the rubble pile. Rubble pile was 3 stories tall. It contained heavy machinery, heavy rolls of paper and twine, and the rubble from the building itself. Firemen started digging feverishly, looking for the trapped men. There was a real threat of secondary collapse as the firemen worked. So it was man up time.
Look at all
Did
the
they-
snow too.
Yeah. Did they know how many guys were missing at the time, Chief? Or they were?
I know later in the fire that they confirmed that they had 6 people missing. I don't know when they came to that conclusion.
Right.
I was under the impression that this happened way later. Like you would think because it was a collapse and just over time, you wouldn't think it would have this would have happened so early in this fire, right?
Yeah.
Just thinking about a collapse, any type of collapse. Most of the time, it's much later in the fire,
Right.
especially if you lost 4 guys from fire patrol.
Yeah.
But you know what? When I was reading the paperwork that you had sent us, it now makes sense to me. I mean, when I think of salvage, I think of going to put plastic up on a window, and we didn't do anything really. It was nothing. These guys were paid by the insurance company to save, right? So if the fire was going on and they were going to use water on the top floor, it made sense for them to cover stuff on the 3rd floor as the fire was going on, right? I mean, I wasn't even thinking that, but that's what they were really doing.
Yeah. Well, if they could cover like these large rolls of paper and twine, if they get in contact by a large amount of water, they're ruined. If they cover them up, you could salvage them.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Say it was a garment factory, the kinds of finished garments. They cover them up and you can still sell them.
Yeah, I didn't think about that they actually are going in there when the fire's going on, theoretically, as opposed to what we think salvage is.
And what you hated anyway, they give you salvage. You're like, oh, fuck. You just wanted to get the hell out of there.
Because it was worthless. You didn't do anything. You just put plastic on the window or, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Trimmed out the windows and that's it.
the weather was hampering the efforts of the guys digging. Temperature was dropping down into the single digits, and the snow and the howling wind made it seem even colder. Fireman Don Blaskovich of Engine 13, who was the detail for theater inspection at the Music Box Theater when the fire occurred. He went to Wooster Street on foot. When he arrived, he saw the massive collapse scene and the battered firemen searching for their brothers. There was a tremendous amount of smoke coming from the rubble. He manned the apparatus-mounted deck gun to drive the fire away from the searching firemen.
Here's a heads-up move.
Do we have that deck gun picture? No, I guess not. That's a great picture. It's too bad.
Now that's like the 23rd Street fire, right? One guy was detailed out on that one too, right? For the
he had hydrant detail, something, giving out tickets on people on fire hydrants.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very similar to that. Where
So,
and he went directly to the fire too, I believe, the 23rd Street fire.
yes. At 2000 hours, as operations continued, ice began forming on the unstable exterior walls. It created an undesigned load. Right? That's anything under compression is designed to be loaded through. If you have a large amount of weight off to one side, it's not designed for that.
Right.
There was a constant threat of a secondary collapse occurring. Men worked in small groups with floodlights. Firemen were stationed to sight along the plane of the weakened walls, looking for wall movement, which brought me right back to when I was a lieutenant. We had a bad fire in a vacant building, and the late great Brian O'Flaherty, the captain of Rescue 1, had guys from Rescue 1 at each corner of the building, sighting alongside the masonry walls, looking for any movement or any bow in the masonry wall. I read that as there it is.
Yeah.
I already did that in the 1980s.
They were doing that at the Trade Center too, right? They had people coming in to scope.
But now we have
Transit.
such a high, surveyors, transits, and everything.
Right.
But the low-tech way is to put a guy.
Eyeball it.
Yeah.
Keep your snout on that, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You send the guy with the biggest nose.
Whoa. What are you trying to say there, bro?
I'm not saying anything. I mean, if you did that occasionally, then maybe you got the schnauzer.
At 2000 hours, Fire Commissioner Edward Kavanaugh was on the scene and he special called the thawing apparatus to assist with the rescue effort. Ice coated the apparatus in the fireman. Now, if you look at the pictures of the rigs, these are open cab rigs. So you see the
Mike,
ice.
you got that frozen picture of the apparatus?
Yeah, we just have to. We're gonna get it right now. Hold on. Sorry, my computer's not cooperating.
Rigs. It's in the cabs too. They had to use the thawing apparatus.
There ain't no place to warm up in that bad boy.
Look at that, Jesus.
Yeah. A collapse zone was established around the building. At 20-15 hours, the rear wall collapsed, showering the area with flying bricks and ice. About 200 firemen and 65 pieces of equipment worked through the night, digging through the debris. Hopes were high that the trapped firemen and fire patrolmen were in voids and survived the collapse. Electronic devices were called for. In 1958, we have electronic devices.
Whoa.
And to attempt to triangulate and find those who were trapped.
So you had 4 fire patrol guys and 2 FDNY guys. That's who's missing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at that. Oh my God.
At 22:30 hours, Fire Commissioner Edward Kavanaugh announced that there's no longer any question that there are 6 firemen missing. It's been 2 hours since anyone heard a sound. So this is 2.5 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours and change.
Yeah. At 22:55 hours, 2 firemen were found in the rubble. They were removed as quickly as possible. Fireman William Schmidt was taken to Bellevue Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. And Fireman Bernard Blumenthal was taken to St. Vincent's Hospital, which is no longer there. And he died after being in the hospital a few moments after arrival. The New York Times had an account of the scene when they found the bodies of the 2 firemen. I'll read it. The firemen worked atop the hot rubble. Suddenly, shortly before 11 p.m., there was an excited shout. I saw him. A few seconds later, there was a collective cry. We've got him. And then a moment later, there was a cry, a priest, a priest, a priest. A fire department chaplain climbed a ladder to the top of the rubble and administered the last rites. The victim was carried down, either dead or dying, and put into an ambulance. 3 minutes later, there was another excited shout for help. This time, a chaplain who was apparently a rabbi climbed the ladder. Another body was brought down and put into the ambulance. And that was a segment from the New York Times.
If that thing didn't happen so quickly, Chief, if it had been a little longer, you probably would have lost more guys. You would have had more lines stretched into the building, right? And instead of 2, you might have had, I don't know, another 6, 8, 10 guys, right?
It's a real good observation. And they were also hampered by the weather.
Right.
So were they able to get out of quarters in a timely fashion? We don't know.
So those pictures, Mike, put that picture back up. So the picture that we saw with the rubble with those guys, that's in the back, right? Is that what we were looking at?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because nothing came into the front of the building. Obviously, I mean, looking at that, I'm not sure what time this was. It's obviously there's a lot more firemen there, so it was it's light. So it's the next day.
We saw later in the stack of pictures I sent. There's one of them where the arch is broken, and you see guys. So that eventually does happen to the front wall, but the rear wall is the first one to go. It became apparent that the rescue effort for the 4 missing fire patrolmen would go on for many hours or even days. At 024 hours, early Saturday morning, Acting Chief of Department Arthur Massett and Fire Commissioner Edward Kavanaugh put out a call over the department radio for firemen to volunteer to come to the scene and help with the search. The response was impressive. About 500 off-duty firemen came to the scene, braving the 9 inches of snow and the extreme cold. They were looking to help in any way they could. They relieved the exhausted and frozen firemen that operated in the fire since the alarm was transmitted. It was the first time such a call was sent out. A similar spirit was on display by the FDNY firemen at the 23rd Street collapse in 1966 and the World Trade Center attacks in 2001.
Wow. That's the picture there.
Yeah. Yeah. So eventually that front wall does come down, and damages that arch.
I mean, look at the brothers in there working still, right?
Yeah.
Any minute, the rest of that could come down.
And that's a substantial architectural design is an arch. Everything's in compression, and so for that to be broken, that's
right.
Chief, not to interrupt you, but I do have the deck gun picture now. Apologies, it just wasn't loading earlier. If we can go back to that, here's the picture of that.
What's interesting about that is I'm pretty sure that's Don Blaskovich from 13 Engine, who came up by himself after theater inspection, and he came upon it and he took control of that deck gun. So I'm pretty sure that's him.
A heads up move by him, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, he's definitely cold right there, man.
No doubt about it.
I mean, I've been in the bucket a few times with that, like that, when you're getting the spray and everything, and forget it.
And he was trudging around Lower Manhattan, walking from the firehouse to the Music Box Theater,
Yeah.
Looks like he's got a rubber coat on, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that's visibly missing back then, no tower lattice, right? So on a building like that today, you probably would have had the tower lattice set up, right?
Yeah. I don't know. So early in the fire, I'm not sure that would have happened.
Good point. Yeah.
I like looking at some of these YouTube fires and stuff like that. Some of these dramatic fires, and I think to myself, all right, Chief Jonas, what would you do right now? And you try to challenge yourself. Would I be doing what he's doing, or would I be doing something different? And with this fire, I don't know if I would have done much different.
I don't think you would have had time to, right? Yeah. I mean, it happened so quickly.
Probably the first alarm wasn't there yet.
You probably wouldn't have been there yet.
Yeah. So, heavy machinery was brought in. You see a crane with a wrecking ball. You see heavy earth loading machinery moving some debris around. There was still heavy smoke and it was still bitterly cold. Fire was still breaking out of the rubble. Here we go. When I wrote this, I called Vinny Dunn and I spoke to him about it. He was at the fire.
No way.
He was at the fire?
He was at the fire. He's like the Where's Waldo.
Where's
Waldo? He was at Wooster Street. He was at 23rd Street. He was, he was at all these major events, and he told me he was either a probie or just off probation in 59 Engine, and there was a special call to the box, and they went to the fire. And he said, we operated a hand liner. So I got this picture from the photo unit. It shows the picture of engine ops at Wooster Street. And you wonder if one of those guys in that picture is Vinny Dunn.
Wow.
That's a pretty sick picture too, right there.
Yeah.
Look at the guy taking a picture of them while they're operating. Is that a guy in front of them taking a picture?
Yeah.
That's Cologne.
It was me, probably my grandfather. Who knows?
A young Vinny Dunn, maybe. Who knows?
They directed water on the rubble from across the street. Fireman Dunn, Fireman Eno Malpelli, and others operated jackhammers to breach a cellar wall. Debris was removed by a human chain, just like we did at the World Trade Center.
Right.
So
have they found the fire patrol guys at this point or not yet?
No, not yet.
Holy shit.
Saturday night, 24 hours after the Wooster Street fire started, another fire broke out about a mile away over by 28 and 11.
Oh, my goodness.
At 40 Avenue C. It went to a fourth alarm. About 200 firemen went to the scene from Wooster Street.
No way.
The FDNY was being pushed to its limits.
No way.
At 1440 hours on Saturday, February 15th, the next day, signal 5555 was transmitted to all FDNY firehouses. See the bottom left-hand corner, you can see a picture of that fire on Avenue C. On Monday night, February 17th, Fire started on Friday night.
Wow. Yeah. That's a couple days later.
2,100 hours. The bodies of Fire Patrolman James Devine, Michael Tracy were found and recovered. Their bodies were found near the southeast corner of the building. On the next day, on Tuesday, February 18th, the bodies of Sergeant Michael McGee and Fireman Patrolman Louis Brusati were found and carried out of the rubble. All 4 deceased fire patrolmen were found within a 15-foot radius of each other. 10 firemen were injured to the point of requiring hospitalization. After the exhaustive search, 2 FDNY firemen and 4 New York fire patrolmen were killed in the line of duty. May they all rest in peace, never forget.
Yeah, I think he had that upside down.
Yeah, unfortunately came in upside down, but those are the victims, unfortunately, of Wooster Street. Let me try to reload that picture in the proper way.
Okay.
Wow.
So, again, there's a lot of mystery about the New York Fire Patrol. Pretty interesting stuff. The Fire Patrol was formed in 1839.
Wow.
The New York City Fire Department wasn't formed until 1865, after the Civil War. So they were formed well before the start of the Civil War.
Let me guess. Boss Tweed had a little piece of it. He got a little something.
It had nothing to do with city government because it was all the Board of Fire underwriters.
Right.
The original task was to patrol Lower Manhattan looking for fires. That's what their original
Come
job.
on. Is that crazy? That's crazy.
There was no fire alarm box system in 1839, so that was their job, is just to drive around looking for fires.
That's crazy.
So
we did in the squad.
Yeah. Out trolling for fires.
Send us a ticket, 1084.
They were operated by the New York Board of Fire Underwriters. They were the oldest paid fire service in the United States.
Wow, that's crazy too.
Not a lot of guys know. That before they were disbanded, I would special call them as a battalion chief. Just to, if I had something in a commercial building, special call fire patrol, just to get them. Their mission evolved to protecting commercial occupancies from the secondary effects of fire, which we discussed already. Firemen fight fire. Firemen patrolmen fight water. Put in simple terms. Most of their operations were on the floors below the fire. The fire patrol responded on the first alarm for street boxes, telephone alarms for building fires, and all types of Class 3 alarms. They could be special called anywhere in the city. So, Kev, that answers your question from earlier, when they would respond, and I'm sure it's like, well, we just wanted to go.
I can't even believe this next paragraph. Yeah.
Yeah, they had their own command structure. Like one of their ranks was sergeant. But they worked under the command of FDNY chief officers. They weren't operating on their own. They were part of the whole response matrix to a fire. This is huge, and I don't know how many guys.
I didn't know this, Chief. This is crazy.
In their history, the New York Fire Patrol lost 32 fire patrolmen.
That's crazy.
32.
That's a lot of guys, man.
Mm-hmm.
Or, maybe at their height they had 6 fire patrols. Maybe back in the day. That's 32 guys killed in small events throughout the city during their time. The last fire patrolman to be killed in the line of duty was Fireman Patrolman Keith Romer. Yeah. He was killed on 9/11 when the South Tower collapsed. He and his sergeant John Shea were operating as rescuers. They made several trips into the building before the collapse. On Christmas Eve 2001, Keith Romer's remains were recovered along with his distinctive red helmet. Now that red helmet is on display. I can't remember where I saw it. It's either in the Fire Museum or the World Trade Center Museum, but that's the red helmet. They had the same gear that we had, with the exception of the distinctive colored helmet.
If I can just add something real quick on Mr. Roma, I do remember reading this. His father was Arnold Roma, who's still around, was a retired New York City police officer who started himself as a fire patrolman. That day, Keith responded from Fire Patrol 2 in Greenwich Village to report down to the Trade Center. There's video of a fire patrol truck pulling in on YouTube.
Right.
He called his father to say, "I'll meet you down there." That was the last time they spoke. And there's a picture of Keith in the lobby of the North Tower leading people out.
Yes, I've seen that. Matter of fact, I have that picture in my newsletter.
Now, Chief, there was some. He's not included in the 343, right? Is
It
that
should be 344.
I mean, I never realized that until some people, similar to the telephone fire. You hear these things, and then through social media. But why do you think that was the case? Why do you think they just because he wasn't a member of the FDNY? Is that what the story is?
I don't know. I don't know who made that decision. You would think that over their long history that they worked side by side with the New York City Fire Department that they would make an exception, but they didn't.
He was given an FDNY funeral. That much I do know. And Von Essen did promise to make him a part of the death toll officially, but that never came to fruition.
Wow,
but he was given an FDNY funeral.
We got to get on that, Roof.
Yeah. And his remains were found Christmas Eve 2001.
Mm-hmm.
The New York Fire Patrol had some distinguished alumni. First Deputy Fire Commissioner William Feehan was a fire patrolman. Captain Patty Brown, Captain of Ladder 3, started out in the fire patrol. Both were killed on 9/11. Patty Brown was assigned to Fire Patrol 2 on 30th Street, and the bathhouse fire in Midtown. It's escaping me right now. He was making rescues in there, and there's pictures of him being wheeled out on a stretcher.
Really?
A member of Fire Patrol. Yeah. At the time of Wooster Street, there were 4 New York Fire Patrol units, 2 in Lower Manhattan and 2 in downtown Brooklyn. In 2006, the New York Board of Fire Underwriters voted to disband the Fire Patrol. Members of the FDNY were informed of this decision officially on Department Order 85 of 2006. The order simply stated, effective 0800 hours, October 15, 2006, the operations on the New York City Fire Patrol are suspended.
That's like...
That was it. A rather unceremonious ending to a glorious history.
Yeah.
And I was working in Battalion 2 at the time, right down the block, walking distance. And we got a phone call from some construction workers who were renovating the firehouse for a well-known
CNN host.
CNN host. And the memorial plaques were on the wall of the firehouse. They says, "Do you guys want these plaques?" And
oh my God!
so we drove down there. We took the plaques off the wall, and they had already taken them off the wall. What we did was load them up, and we got them to members of the Fire Patrol. But they're just like, "You're out."
That's it.
That's it. You're done. So it's a rather glorious history and rather unceremonious.
Yeah,
I'll say.
Completion.
pretty shitty.
The only one I heard was worse than that is when the tin house went out for a run. They came back and the doors were locked.
They chained the doors.
Yeah.
Enjoy the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
During the Super Bowl.
Enjoy them.
Oh man.
Come on inside. We got wings.
Yeah. Johnny Aelpy was a fire.
He was.
Too.
I hope he was too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they operated just like a firehouse. That guy, they ate meals, they cooked, they.
Yeah. It was. They were part of the fabric of the New York City Fire Department for a very, very.
Chief, I remember seeing them at jobs, and we're like, "Who the hell are these guys?" Like, I remember, like, I didn't see them too often, but I remember saying, "Who the hell are they?" Nobody really knew anything like what they were doing, you know, like. I didn't know anything about it. Now that I think back, but I do remember seeing them at jobs occasionally.
But if you go back through some of the old WMYFs and you go into the all hands.
No. Did we lose the chief?
Oh, we lost the chief.
His volume's off. Oh.
Kev, you're muted too.
His mic is on. I don't know what's going on.
Uh-oh.
Chief, we can't hear you.
You have his number, Roof?
No, he's got to tell him to go out and come back in.
I don't have his number.
He can hear us.
Chief, can you hear us?
I don't know. I don't think he can.
Uh-oh.
All right. I'll put him in the back room while we figure this out.
Let me call him quick.
Yes.
Actually, if you take him out, maybe take
Yeah,
him out.
he just left. He'll come
All right.
back in shortly.
Look at that.
Okay.
That's
So,
crazy.
how about those Knicks?
32 guys. I can't even
32
believe
guys.
that.
Yes, 32.
That's a lot of
Yeah,
people.
but there was a petition though to add Keith Roma. It got a lot of signatures too years ago to add Keith
He's
Roma
back.
to the official FDNY death toll. He's back now. Chief Jonas.
So we
Sorry about
got you.
Where did we leave off?
We were
Memorial plaques for the fire patrol that you guys
yes,
came up and
we got past that. We're just past that, and then we lost you.
All right, the causes: overloading of floors, heavy storage of
Yeah.
old paper,
Let's do that.
fire destruction of the building, and failure of cast iron columns. The collapse occurred 15 minutes after the fire was discovered by building occupants, which is dramatic. You don't expect that with a truss building. The whole building collapsed in 15 minutes. There was no warning. Fire did have a head start. It had control of 2 floors, and the windows failed before it was discovered. The fire was reported as being started by careless smoking. So there you
Those
go.
2 people on the top floor. That's what happened.
Yeah. The hierarchy of structural framing is bearing walls, columns, girders, beams, and decks. So from strength to weakness. Columns came into focus with this very much so. The most efficient shape of a column is completely circular. A column can be hollow and it can be very thin. However, if the wall thickness of the column is too thin, it'll have little protection from an exterior force. I put a thing in there to a little tribute to my buddy from 2811, Captain Andy Trabanco. He used to do a drill on columns. He would roll paper up into little columns, and he would set them on the giant trays, metal trays for food, and he would set these columns up, and he would pile pots and pans on top of these columns. And he torched the paper columns.
Watch the whole thing come down. Nice.
Science project.
Guys loved it.
Good drill.
If a cast iron column is improperly cast, the column has a plane of weakness. So, and you'll have no way of determining it by looking at it from the outside. A column delivers a compressive load, usually to ground. The most efficient arrangement of columns is in a multi-story building is that they're superimposed on top of each other. This is really interesting.
Yeah, that's the one.
Cast iron is heated to 1100 degrees Fahrenheit. It loses 58% of its strength. Once the cast iron is cooled, it doesn't regain its strength. The strength loss is permanent. So you could have a fire like 30 years ago and it lost its strength and you have no idea.
You don't even know it's compromised. Yeah.
Just throw a couple coats of paint on it. In older loft buildings, hollow cast columns were used as air ducts. This void can also transmit fire. Once a column starts to yield, as it was in this case, there's little reserve strength. It's gone.
It's just too brittle.
Yeah. Any indication of column failure should prompt an immediate evacuation. The failure of a column is more sudden than the failure of a beam. When cast iron columns are heated, they expand. If the column is unable to move, it will crack. The taller a column is, the weaker it is as compared to a column of the same material and cross section. So anytime you see an occupancy that has very tall columns, that's an indicator for you. Large rolls of paper and twine can absorb considerable amounts of water. This increases the weight and size of the roll. 800-pound rolls of paper and twine soaking up water has enough force to push down masonry walls, which has happened recently. In my time on the job, it's happened in I believe in a taxpayer fire in Brooklyn where they knocked down masonry walls. So
what either the exposures compromised, Chief?
They didn't mention it. Probably not if they were not mentioned. But we talked about this earlier. 1 month after this fire, on March 19th, 1958, another horrific fire happened at 623 Broadway in the Hell's 100 Acre section of Lower Manhattan at the Monarch Underwear Factory fire. 24 people killed, and that happened a month later.
No line of duties, though, right? It was just civilians?
Civilians, yeah.
Wow, 24.
I mean, that's another big number. You never,
Yeah,
you don't hear
24.
about that fire at all, right?
Right. That just
No.
runs into the fabric of Lower Manhattan, and 24 people died at a fire today.
Even this fire, I mean, you heard about it, but it wasn't like the 23rd Street fire, right? It wasn't.
Right.
I mean, I always heard about it, but I never knew all the specifics about it. And
I didn't even know fire patrol guys died in this fire.
Yeah.
Now when I was a covering lieutenant in the 1st Division, I was working at 33 Engine, and somebody told me that my chauffeur had responded to the Wooster Street fire, and he didn't really volunteer any information. I was interested, and he never really came up with any information. But what a lost opportunity! I could have spoken to him about.
Yeah, like a firsthand. I was just looking in the chat. The Beef, Trio. He was in fire patrol for 19 years. I thought I'd seen him.
Yeah.
Chief, if I can ask you for a second, this is way before collapse rescue came into effect. Now there's designated rigs, for each of the 5 boroughs. When the discussions, I mean, not that you were in them, of course, but when the discussions to at least form collapse rescue came into effect with Rescue 3 getting the first rig, do you think that this fire was part of those discussions and was a focal point considering where collapse rescue operations were in 1958?
No, that's you got to figure like in 1958, the rest of the city, like the Bronx and everything, was relatively new. Those buildings weren't that old.
Right.
We didn't have the vacant building fire problem yet. So the collapse rescues really kind of took hold, and we started forming it in
1980s?
87.
No, this is way later. Okay. Almost 30 years later.
We got a second piece, and they started, planning on how we're going to put this together. But like I did an extensive research on the 3rd Avenue collapse in the Bronx, and where 6 firemen were killed, and that's still the greatest life loss fire in the history of the Bronx for the fire department. And this was foreign territory for them. Like I said, the Bronx, you didn't have any decay. These buildings weren't being decayed and being abandoned, and not in the 50s. And so one thing I did include in my newsletter, one of the first written documents about collapser operations for the FDNY was a 2-part article in WNYF titled "Collapse" by Deputy Chief Joseph E. Contrasano of the 3rd Division. The first article was in July of 1960, and the second one was the winter of 61. Much of our early collapse operations were learned from the London Fire Brigade and their operations during World War II. So that's where we got a lot of our stuff. And, they were dealing with collapse every night. You know, we got a bombing raid and we got 10 buildings collapsed. We got to search, you know, and that's where they came up with the collapse rescue plan, and we kind of, you know, grabbed a lot of information from them. So.
Which we're going to try and get you once a month at least, Chief.
You just stole my thunder, Ruffy.
Oh.
What's next, Chief? Give us another.
Yeah, which one are you feeling next? You want to do the underwear one again?
Yeah, that's a real interesting fire, and some big names were operating at that fire, and yeah, that's be a good one to go over. You know, I was going over some of the, you know, we were trying to come up with a topic for this, and I was going over my all the newsletters I've done. There's a lot of good newsletters out there, you know,
Got to get out. We got to get them out, Chief.
You got to get them for posterity here. Let's get them on the YouTube.
Some of them are not quite as dramatic as this, where you had, you know, 6 guys die. You know, you may have had 1 guy die. You know, and but that was enough. You know, it may have changed our operations. You know, moving forward. You know,
It was enough for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And so there you go.
So if you guys out there have anyone in particular that you want to do, send us a little tickle if one interests you, and we'll get it done with the Chief, because we want to do this once a month. I love the history. I love the learning points. And we just like having Chief Jay Jonas on the show.
And he's done, I mean, he does, all his newsletters are done. Perfect. I mean,
Beautiful.
a lot of it. I mean, I can't imagine the work that it put to get that stuff together, the pictures and go through the whole thing. It's a lot of work, man. I know.
Well, the whole thing, you know, that got me started on these, you know. Vinny Dunn wrote a newsletter for the 3rd Division when I was covering as a captain. And it was before computers, and it was just a 1-page thing, and he just maybe do one training tip and just acknowledge something that was going on in the division and giving the guys a pat on the back. And you still just like seeing it, you know. And so I always had that in the back of my mind. And then in 2014, our division commander was Jimmy Moren, and he retired. And Joe Cicente became the division commander. And he came up to me and he says, "All right, this is what I want you to do. I'm going to put you in charge of training. The only thing I ask is you make the 7th Division the best trained division in the job."
I remember you said that.
And I just looked at him and I says, "You just unleash forces you can't."
You don't even know what you just did. Good stuff.
Initially, they started off as like 1 or 2 page things, you know, and
then you got rolling.
I got into the John McGee-FPNY fire from 34 Trump, and you know, that was such a dramatic turn of events. And, that's what kind of, you know. So.
Good stuff. We'll get them all, Chief. We're going to get them all.
All right.
So what I'll do is I'll shoot you a text probably in the morning of the dates that we have open, and then we'll do the same thing. You pick, and then you start sending me the stuff, and we'll do the same thing. We'll be a little bit more organized with the pictures.
Let's do a couple of shout outs first. We got a couple of commercials to do. Also, don't forget the Lancaster County Firemen's Association, Harrisburg, invites you to join the world's leading manufacturers and representatives of fire emergency medical services, rescue, and public safety equipment at the 2023 Fire Expo. Booth 436. Come down and see a couple of salty guys hanging out there down in
19th and 20th.
The 19th
this month.
20th this month, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come on down to Harrisburg. Mikey, you want to do our new sponsor? Even though we don't have an old school tip of the day, this guy's a fireman. Sounds like a really cool dude. And he has a fishing charter boat, I believe, right?
Really?
Yeah, do it. Right up Ruffy's house.
Dragon Hook Sport Fishing is an all-inclusive, family-friendly fishing charter specializing in walleye, catfish, and steelhead fishing on Lake Erie near Cleveland, Ohio. Owned by Josh Myers, a full-time fireman and licensed U.S. Coast Guard, he brings over 20 years experience fishing the area and is a supporter and sponsor of Walleye for Wounded Heroes that provides Purple Heart recipients as well as all first responders injured in the line of duty 3 days of all-inclusive lodging and fishing each year. Check us out on Facebook at Dragonhook Sports Fishing or online at dragonhooksportsfishing.com. Mention the Gettin' Salty ad and receive 15% off your personal charter.
Shit, I'm calling the guy.
Did you have that phone number? I think Tank said he put the phone number up there.
Yeah, let me see if it's in the queue because there's a lot of photos in the queue. Forgive me, folks. I'm a little rusty. It's been a while.
Rusty.
Rusty. Where would that be? And if I can't find it, shoot me. Is that it? No, that's definitely not it.
Hold on. Coop sent it in the text.
I did, right?
Should be here.
Hold on. It's 440-522-5940. 440-522-5940.
We will get that scrolling across next show that we have.
Yeah. What's the number again so I can put it in the chat? Lou, read it one more time. 440.
440-522-5940.
5940. All right, it's in the chat, folks. If you want to call it up, there you go. He welcomes the business.
Give a little tickle. Do it. Let's do our old health and safety tip of the night, Mike.
Okay, let's pull it up.
The First Responders Center for Excellence is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to protecting the lives and livelihoods of first responders. Their education and research initiatives aim to bring greater awareness and understanding to the challenges to the health, safety, and well-being of firefighters, EMS personnel, and other first responders, too. They are an affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation.
Beautiful. All right, and the health and safety tip. Oh, I had that right here. Where'd it go? Of tonight is use your SCBA during overhaul. Your future self will thank you for the actions you take today. Wear the SCBA, bro. At car fires, too. Come on, don't be a macho. You want to live a long life after you retire.
It's funny. As soon as you retire, you start worrying about that.
Right? Like, no, maybe I should have. I don't know. Yeah.
Not during.
Yeah. All right, Rufty, what do we have on Monday? We got the guy from Rescue 2, 102. Busy
Bobby Babstock.
Bobby Babstock. Okay. And I just signed up for on May 22nd. We got Bobby Burke, bro. He's a volley in Fire Island, but he's also a TV star. He's been in SVU. He was in Rescue Me. He was in the movie Tombstone.
Original Law and Order.
Original Law and Order. Yep. And he's got a couple of FDNY foundations. He worked with Dennis Leary, so we're going to talk about those things. Bobby Burke on the 22nd. How you like them apples? You
Chief,
like apples?
always a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you so much, Chief.
Looking forward to the next one.
Okay.
Turn it back in history. Yep. All right, Rufty. Mike, nice to see you Foch again, Mike.
Nice to be here. Thanks, guys. You'll be seeing a lot more from me. I'll be back really, really soon. It's just the beginning.
Right. Yep. All right, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you. Oh, one more thing, please. Still more prayers for the captain's nephew, Captain Graham's nephew, Cooper. He needs prayers. He needs prayers. He needs prayers.
Absolutely.
Amen, brother. All right. Until Monday, stay low and go.
All right, everybody. We'll see you at the big one. Thanks again, Chief.
Okay.
Have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you next time. Good night.